Hello and good morning. Welcome to my Void-Filled channel. Today we will be doing some Void-Filled commentary based on recommendations from my Void-Filled community. They've been really wanting me to get into Warhammer, so I found this 14 and a half minute long video of Warhammer 40k lore explained for beginners by the channel Warhammer Explained. So that's what we are going to look at this morning and then judge with our eyes. So let's begin, shall we?
Warhammer 40,000 has the craziest, most complex and deep lore I've ever seen in anything fiction. It is literally a meme in the community that trying to explain Warhammer quickly is impossible. But I actually think this is something of a rite of passage for Warhammer lore YouTube channels to attempt to explain Warhammer quickly. And so that's what I want to do with this video. I want to do my version of explaining all of Warhammer lore as quickly as possible.
Let's see how crazy this shit is.
There are a couple of things that I need to establish here before we actually get into what the lore is. The first thing to establish is the character of the Emperor of Mankind. Now, a lot of other fiction has an emperor or a central imperial figure, and Warhammer is no different, but I would argue this character is the coolest out of all the other emperors. A couple things about the Emperor. Number one, he's a perpetual. This means he's essentially immortal. He began with humanity a long time ago and has been living alongside us for centuries. It's actually recently revealed that he's Alexander the Great, or at least he was Alexander the Great. This is one of his many lives that he had, and he dies and he comes back to life. And so because he is a perpetual, eventually he starts trying to guide humanity towards a better future. Now the next concept.
Okay, so he's like God, bro. Is he not like God then? He's ruling the universe. He's the emperor. He's immortal. He's God. Alexander the Great is God in this universe. Got it.
That we have to keep in mind is the warp, or the immaterium. In Warhammer, there's another universe that runs parallel to our own, and this is known as the immaterium, or the warp. And the warp is many different things. I mean, you can think of it as just a...
That's pretty art right there. That's pretty art.
Demonic dimension full of chaos gods. It's also a place that characters are able to use to do space travel. It's also a well of crazy powers and ability that allow certain beings in our universe known as psychers to be able to tap into. Most of the crazy witchcraft and powers that you see in 40k are psychers tapping into the warp. And in fact, it's actually explained in the lore of Warhammer that in our modern day, like where we're at right now, a lot of the tales of different wizards and witches and magic and a lot of our myths are actually coming from real people that were able to tap into the warp. Okay, next thing we got to establish is the present setting of Warhammer 40,000, because when the game was originally conceived, it was just in the 40th millennia, and there's constant war, and mankind is fighting against the orcs, the Tyranids. But then the lore gets filled in with a lot of stuff that happens leading up to the present day 41st millennia. Currently, the Imperium of Man is a heavily centralized, authoritarian regime. They're brutal, they're fascist, they destroy people that won't worship the emperor, they fight constant wars against other aliens, they take advantage of hive worlds where most of the humans grow up as essentially slaves, and they mine resources that are then sent to Terra or Earth. The Emperor himself is interred upon the Golden Throne. It's a life-sustaining device that keeps his psychic presence alive. The Emperor is also worshipped worshipped as a god across the Imperium. The Imperium faces countless threats, both external and internal. Chaos continues to corrupt and wage war. Xenos races pose a constant danger, and the warp itself is still threatening to expand and engulf all of reality. The Space Marines, the kind of guys you always see depicted on Warhammer art, are out there fighting the good fight, defending the Imperium from heretics, aliens, and other enemies. But frankly, it's not a good time. It's a really dark, crazy place. The Imperium itself, technically the good guys, but also kind of horrible. But now let's Tarantino this, right? Let's go back in time. How did we get here? Let's first talk about the dark age of technology.
This is so interesting, and I bet there's like fucking thousands of hours of explanations on this shit. I wish I was more of a lore follower. I don't usually pay attention to lore in games like I should. It seems really cool though. I've never played Warhammer. I don't know anything about Warhammer, and I haven't heard anything about Warhammer until I hit like my early 20s. I knew it was a thing, but I never like, I don't know. I never just got into it. There's no girly stuff in it, and usually I need some girly stuff, but I still like to learn. So, thanks to my community for recommending this to me. This is really interesting.
This goes back to the 25th millennia and lasts all the way to the 29th millennia. During this period, humanity made extraordinary advancements in science, technology, and colonization. They developed incredible feats of engineering, interstellar travel, and artificial intelligence. They also discovered the warp and were utilizing the warp in a lot of this technology. They created these warp capable starships that allowed them to travel across the galaxies. They created terraforming technologies, which also pulled on the power of the warp. And then they made maybe one of the most important things ever, and that is sophisticated AI. So things were going great for humans. Human colonies started spreading throughout the galaxy, and their dominion was massive. But then some bad stuff happened. First thing that happened were these things called the Men of Iron, which were advanced artificial intelligences. Yeah, they became sentient and rebelled, turning against humanity and having a massive war. This war was known as the War of Devastation, and it resulted in widespread loss of life. The AI rebellion targeted human settlements, infrastructure, and military forces, causing a crazy amount of destruction. Entire worlds were laid waste, and the conflict escalated to crazy cataclysmic proportions. Eventually, humanity did destroy the Men of Iron and win the War of Devastation. But this led to a deep fear and a distrust of advanced artificial intelligence. So as a result, the use of AI and technology was severely restricted, and the Adeptus Mechanicus, the religious and technological organization, emerged to preserve the control of technological knowledge. This is very similar to what happens in the Dune series, where they also had a war with AI and then swear off AI totally. But things didn't just get better after the War of Devastation. In fact, the warp itself started going crazy in the galaxy, probably because of the advancement of all these humans and their emotional imprint upon it. A bunch of warp storms ended up cutting off interstellar travel, and various human civilizations fell into isolation, technological decline, and barbarism. So basically, humans got really advanced technology spread out all throughout the galaxy. Then their AI turned on them. They had a crazy war with AI. The warp itself went bananas, separated all of them, and all these advanced human colonies out there in the galaxy degraded into really barbaric, sometimes feudal states. This era was known as the Age of Strife, and it directly leads into the rise of the Emperor of Mankind and the Great Crusade.
Okay. There's a lot going on here. AI bad. Robots bad. You know, this keeps appearing throughout many different medias. Like, ooh, AI is gonna go against people. Don't advance AI too much. And right now it's like a big thing. Like, they're advancing AI. And I wouldn't say it's gotten to the too much region yet, but they're making robots. So we're gonna end up in this world if we're not careful. That's what I think.
The Emperor of Mankind reveals himself as this powerful psychic being that's been with us forever and is here.
Is he a good guy? Is he genuinely a good guy, the Emperor? I feel like it's not likely that he's just, oh, perfect, well-meaning God. He's nice. He wants everything to be good. He wants peace and happiness. Like, is that? I feel like there's something going on there. Like, he can't just be like pure good, can he? This Warhammer seems kind of messed up. You know?
To help us go into the future. He begins something known as the Great Crusade to reunite humanity and bring order to the galaxy. And then, because the Emperor was also a genetic genius and really good with technology, he creates super soldier beings. It's one of my favorite things about the Emperor of Mankind. He's a lot like Mr. Sinister from the Marvel X-Men books. The first soldiers he creates for himself are the Custodian Guard. They served as his personal protectors and bodyguards, and they were these massive human beings. They were resistant to psychic attacks, damn near perfect in the way that they could fight. They had incredible technology and armor and weapons. They're damn near perfect, but there was a problem. They were just way too hard to create and to replicate. The Emperor couldn't really see himself conquering all of the galaxy with custodians. That would just take forever to create that many custodians. So then he created the Thunder Warriors. The Thunder Warriors were much easier to create than a custodian guard, but they were also crazy powerful, superhuman warriors. But there was a problem. The Thunder Warriors were unstable. But the Emperor figured they were good enough to conquer and unify all of Earth, or Terra, so he took part in what was known as the Unification Wars. And with the Custodians by his side, he and the Thunder Warrior army beat back all of these different warlords that were on Earth. The Emperor conquered all of Earth, but then he had him and his Custodians destroy all of the Thunder Warriors. Next up was the creation of the Primarchs. The Emperor created 20 genetically engineered beings infused with incredible power and leadership. He used some of his own DNA, some of his perpetual baby mama's DNA, and he also made some kind of a deal with the chaos gods of the warp. It's unclear if he was given a portion of power from chaos or if he stole a portion of the power of chaos, but either way, he took some of the chaos power of the warp and infused it into these 20 Primarchs. But the chaos gods, who for now you can just think of as these demonic beings in the warp that are watching over what's happening.
Those are the Chaos Gods. The one on the right looks really cool. I like the purple. The red one's kind of cool looking too, but my eye was immediately drawn to the one on the right. I like girly girls. Girly girlies? I'm a girl's girl. So I will always look at them
happening
first.
In the material universe. Yeah, they didn't like that he was creating these 20 immortal godlike chaos capable beings. And so while these Primarchs were still infants, the chaos gods disrupted the Emperor's plans and scattered the Primarchs across the galaxy. However, the Emperor still had the gene seed from the Primarchs, which is basically just a bunch of their genetic material, and he used the genetic material to create the Space Marine chapters. And so then the Emperor had all of these different Astartes, all of these different Space Marines that are essentially the sons of these father Primarchs, and also they are essentially his own sons being made of his own gene seed. And then he goes out into the galaxy and he rediscovers each Primarch. Most of the Primarchs have become leaders of their respective domains on the different planets that they crashed on, but they all have unique upbringings, unique cultural influences, and also unique abilities. This is one of the best parts of the Warhammer lore, and it allows each one of the Primarchs to have like all kinds of unique attributes, and we're going to get into that, but
So, like, do you get to choose which Primarch is your parent if you play a Warhammer game? Because he says that they all have different abilities. Do you get to, like, pick which one is, like, your parent? Also, do they never have daughters? Is that, like, not a thing? Like, he only has genes for sons? Are there any daughters? Are there any women in this franchise? Other than that Chaos God, Eric. Who's his baby mama? Like, show me the women.
this
Show me the
video,
women.
we'll just kind of leave it there. So after discovering all of the Primarchs and putting them to work to unify the rest of the galaxy, the Emperor goes back to Terra and he begins working on the Webway. Essentially, he's just trying to really perfect space travel through the warp for the entire Imperium. But the Chaos Gods, who remember were keeping a close eye on all of this and had scattered all the infant Primarchs, they didn't like what was going on with the Emperor, so they start to corrupt the Primarchs. Horus, who was named as the War Master over all of the Imperium army, was corrupted by the Chaos Gods and started a rebellion. This is known as the Horus Heresy, and it happens in the 30th millennia, 10,000 years before Warhammer 40k. And even though the rebellion itself only lasted for between 7 to 10 years, its ramifications were felt forever, and it is the biggest part of the Warhammer lore. Horus gets about half of the Primarchs to flip to his side, and there's this crazy big civil war, a lot of devastation, some chapters of Space Marine almost being wiped out completely. Many of the Primarchs are killed, and it all culminates with a crazy battle between the Emperor and Horus himself. Horus is juiced up to the gills with a bunch of Chaos God energy, and the Emperor is the Emperor. And so they're fighting. The Emperor doesn't want to kill Horus because he still kind of thinks of him as a son. Horus is taking a lot of shots at the Emperor, like really doing some serious damage to him. And then something flips in the Emperor. He decides Horus is no good, and he does a Kamehameha wave attack that not only destroys all of Horus's body, but it actually destroys his very soul. Most of the time in Warhammer, especially if you're a Primarch, you can die in the physical form, but your soul will go into the warp and it'll linger there, and some of them even come back to life. But there's nothing of Horus to come back to life. The Emperor destroys his very existence. On every level of reality, Horus was obliterated. But in order to obliterate Horus, the Emperor used all of the last bits of physical energy that he had, and it leaves his body completely decimated. He's essentially a corpse at that point, barely alive, and he's dragged to the Golden Throne where he's put on life support. And from there, the Emperor exists, being alive mostly in the warp now, and over 1,000 psychic human beings a day are sacrificed to the Golden Throne as a way to keep the Emperor alive. And that's it. That's all of Warhammer's lore explained briefly. Now, some people out there might say, that's not all the lore. There's stuff that happens even before humanity exists. And I call that heresy. But also, yes, that's true. And I will make videos on that as well. I hope you enjoyed this one. I'll see you in the next video.
Okay, so there's my introduction to Warhammer. Is the Emperor still like that? Because, like, the entire video that he showed, it was like, he had the long hair and he looked very healthy. But is he still like that? Is he still like a corpse, like feeding on corpses to survive? Not corpses. Is he still like basically a corpse feeding on psychic people? Is he still like that? It seems like he was a pretty, like, at least like lawful good character. I know it's not D&D. It doesn't seem like he had very many things like wrong with him, but at the end where he got like destroyed, like that fucking sucks. Like he can't go back to normal ever. He's not gonna heal. this world seems, well, this universe seems very interesting. I love the art, extremely detailed art. People seem to be really into Warhammer. I don't know shit about it really. There's no women. Where's the women? It seems like there's a lot to it that, and I could watch, like when I looked up like Warhammer lore, there were like 2 hour long videos, a playlist of like 200 videos to watch. Like holy shit, like you could get really in depth in this shit, and I don't know if I'm gonna play it, but I don't mind learning more about it. uh if it's, is it kind of like Doom? Does it feel like Doom when you play? Can you be a woman? These are the big questions that I need answered. Do I have to be a big muscular man in a big suit like the guys from Fallout? Or I've only played Fallout 4 in the power suits. That's what they kind of look like. They look like they're in the power armor from Fallout. Interesting stuff. Yeah, there's my introduction to Warhammer. I hope that my community is happy with me because I know you guys are Warhammer nerds. Thanks for hanging out, y'all. I'm gonna make more videos like this. Bye.